Howdy y'all, Christi here with Little Salty Homesteader. If this is your first time joining me, I am a backyard gardener in North Texas, Zone 8A. And if this is not your first time, welcome back, welcome everybody. I'm so glad you're here. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about how to amend your containers for the next season. Now, most of my garden is in containers, and I'll just take a quick minute to kind of show you just a very quick run through of the whole garden so you can kind of see. So this here was my whole tomato patch for the summer garden this year, and right now it has a ton of bush beans growing in it. There's still a few tomatoes left, lots of basil still left, a couple of flowers back there, and then my roselle hibiscus, there you go, back there. As it cools down, that will start to bloom and then can save the calyxes for tea. And then of course eggplants, some corn, really tall sunflower, all of my peppers. Well, this is actually most of my peppers, this is not quite all of them. A couple more peppers. I did have sunflowers there, and then, you know, all kinds of stuff on the patio as well. So 99% of my garden is in containers. Eventually I want to upgrade to the Vigo raised garden beds, but that has not been in the budget as of yet. So for now, the containers will just have to do. And the soil for gardening can be quite expensive. There are ways, you know, to save money on soil. You can make your own soil blends. You can make your own compost. That costs free 99, so that's great. But it can still cost quite a bit of money. So in an effort to kind of save on expenses a bit, instead of dumping the soil out after you grow it, you know, after you finish growing a tomato plant, you can amend that soil to get it ready for the next plant that you're going to plant in it, which is what we're going to do today. I have several here that the tomatoes are completely dead. I went ahead and I pulled the vines out and threw them in the compost heap that I'm going to throw in the bin as soon as the spider decides she doesn't want to live there anymore. She's humongous. So I'm going to go over that today. Now the soil itself still looks pretty good, but what I'm going to plant in here what I'm going to plant in this container is broccoli. Now tomatoes and broccoli both are heavy nitrogen feeders. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we put nutrients in that what you're going to plant is is what they need, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so both are nitrogen heavy feeders. So we want to make sure that whenever I amend this container, I put a lot of nitrogen back in it. Now, not so much nitrogen that it burns the plant, but enough that it sustains the plant. So kind of try to show you in this jungly mess the container. I do apologize. I seem to have lost sound on the camera again. At this point, I'm talking about how I'm going to be transplanting my Waltham broccoli plant starts into containers, and that one is a little bit scorched from the grow lights. I have since moved them outside, and I'm slowly transplanting them as I have the energy and time to do so. What I'm showing you here are the bush beans that are currently growing. The idea behind that is bush beans are a nitrogen fixing plant. So what that means is once you grow them, because they're determinate, they're going to give you a certain number of beans and then they're going to quit, they're going to die back. Once they die back, we're just going to cut those stalks off and just leave the stems and leaves as kind of like a living mulch or a green mulch, what have you, for these brassica plants, and that's going to give a fantastic nitrogen source. As those green bean roots break down, they will also provide nitrogen for the plant. So in the end, you kind of save a little bit of money with additional nitrogen fertilizers. So what I'm going to be amending these containers with is going to be bagged compost that I purchased from Texas Pure. That is the local compost facility for the county for us, and it is relatively affordable. You can use homemade compost, you can use other store-bought bagged compost. Just make sure that it is organic, and try to do your diligence to make sure that it doesn't have any leftover herbicides and stuff in it. Once you fill up the container with the compost, you can also add in a few more amendments. The amendments that I'm going to be adding in today are going to be earthworm castings, bone meal, blood meal, and I believe I did add a little bit of calcium in the form of eggshells, which will take time to break down. It's not an immediate source of calcium, but it is an overtime source. So the blood meal and the earthworm castings both came from Tractor Supply, but you can pick them up at any local gardening center. Here are the crushed eggshells. Please make sure if you use eggshells that they are crushed, because they do take time to break down. And then the bone meal is from Job's. It is an organic variety. You can pick that up at Lowe's, Home Depot, any of your local gardening centers. All of these amendments work fantastic to provide organic matter for your soil, which is going to in turn create a healthier plant, because remember, a healthy plant starts with healthy soil. Okay, so this is the compost that I'm using to amend the container. The container is a 10-gallon fabric grow bag. You can amend any container, be it buckets, wooden containers, terracotta, whatever you have, you can amend this same way. Just most of my garden happens to be in fabric grow bags or 5-gallon buckets due to, cost savings and such. So I'm just going to scoop the compost into the 10-gallon buckets. It would probably be easier to pour, but these bags were slightly wet, and so they were quite heavy, so I opted to save my back and just scoop the compost into the container. You want to fill it up pretty close to the top. You want to be able to add at least 2 to 4 inches of this really good loose compost to the tops of your containers. If you still have plant roots or whatever from your previous plant, that's fine. It will continue to break down under the compost and give more organic matter. You just want to make sure that you're able to cover up that whatever residual stem is left. So at this point, you just fill it up with the compost. Once it's full, then you'll add your other amendments and mix it in. So as you can see here, this is almost filled up completely with the compost. You can see I'm kind of just spreading it out evenly, sort of a little bit. I'm a horrible camera person. And then at this point, we can go ahead and continue on with the other amendments. So the first amendment that I'm going to be adding is the earthworm castings, and I'm using my super fancy Fortnite plastic party spoon to measure it out. I'm putting about 3 spoons of the earthworm castings into that 10-gallon container, and just kind of spreading it out as evenly as I can. Once the earthworm castings have been added, I go back and I add in 2 spoons of blood meal and 2 spoons of bone meal and 2 spoons of calcium. Then I take my small gardening shovel and just kind of mix that in throughout the soil, all the way across the top of the surface, at least 1 inch to 2 inches deep. So as you can see here, this is what the container looks like with all of the amendments added, and I'm just going through and kind of mixing it in and dispersing it pretty evenly. I did use my hand, but you can use the small shovel like I said. And once you have all of your compost added and your amendments, then you can go ahead and transplant your new seedling, your new plant, your new seeds into that soil and water it in really well, and you should be able to successfully grow your next crop for the season. And here in a moment behind me, you will see Logan walk up, and I will give you guys a few seconds of him entertaining us with his glorious Fortnite dancing. He is outside in his pajamas at the time of filming this video. He did have some sort of respiratory virus, so despite the dancing, he wasn't feeling 100% just yet. So this is left in here purely for all of our entertainment because he's so silly and I love it so much. And that is a caterpillar that I picked off of the bush beans, and I'm going to go actually feed it to the giant spider. I have fed her several caterpillars from the bush beans recently, and she seems to be very happy with the arrangement that we have where she lives over my compost and I feed her bugs. So at this point, this is where I'm going to be transplanting in the Waltham broccoli seed start. That is the label that I have for that, and you can see lots of roots there. What you kind of want to do is kind of break that up at the bottom a little bit, kind of let those roots know, hey, you're free to spread your wings and fly. Go live your best life, root babies. You want to be a little bit gentle, but you don't have to be so gentle that you're not making any progress. You know, kind of get in there and break it up a little bit, and then you can go ahead and plant your plant. Once it is planted in there, you want to water it in very, very well, and you want to keep it nice and moist for at least a week. Overall, amending containers, while it does take a bit of time to amend all of them if you have a lot, it is a very easy thing to do, and it is definitely a much more affordable option than tossing your soil every time. Otis, the dog, definitely loves being out in the garden with me. He likes to chase the spicy bugs, and he has gotten by the spicy bugs a few times, but it hasn't slowed him down any, and he doesn't seem to be allergic. Just remember that whenever you are amending your containers, if the plant that was growing in there had some sort of fungus or illness, you don't want to reuse that soil. If the plant was healthy, then reuse it. Go ahead, amend it, reuse, you know, save those dollars, save that money however you can. And I do apologize again for the voiceover on this video. If you did like what you saw today and you want to continue to see more how-to gardening content, please go ahead and like and subscribe to this video and this channel and hit the notification bell. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.